Oops, this is the wrong, excuse me for just a minute. I have so many agendas, I got to get down to the right one here. Okay, good afternoon. Today is April 8th, 2026, and this is the City of Prescott Council Subcommittee on the General Plan Review. Roll call, please.
Mayor Rusing?
Here.
Councilman Grady?
Here.
Councilwoman Frederickson?
Here.
All are present.
Okay, thank you. Okay, first item.
So we have the discussion and possible action regarding the selection of a consulting firm to complete the general plan update. I last week sent all three of you the 3 proposals. So I'm going to back up for a second. We sent out the scope of work to 10 agencies that we could find within kind of the Arizona area having experience here. Of those 3, of the 10, 3 submitted a proposal, so you all received all 3 proposals that we received, along with a scoring sheet. I had each of you complete a scoring sheet, which you have sent my way, and then I tabulated it. And Mayor, I responded to your email this morning. If you could confirm it, based on what you sent me, I think that HR Green was your number 1, the Planning Center was your number 2, and Logan Simpson was your number 3.
Yes. The HR Green was number 1. Planning Center was number 2. And Logan Simpson was number 3.
Wonderful. That was consistent across the board. So that, I do believe, leaves us with HR Green as being the primary applicant that you all were interested in.
Okay, before we vote on that, I'd like to have a little discussion from each committee member as to what their rationale was, pro and cons, just to be on the record. Who's willing to start first?
I'll go first, Mayor.
Thank you.
Yeah, I ranked HR Green fairly high because I thought that their experience was one of the best with, the different updates that their individual team members had been involved in a wide range of communities in our state. And I remember that they highlighted some good examples of their work. Let me see if I had another piece here. I felt that their work, they identified the executive summary, which was one of our priorities, and I thought one of the other folks that submitted did not mention the executive summary. And I think overall I just felt the qualifications of their team members was the best of the 3.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Mary, do you have any comments?
Well, I'll just go on about HR Green for the reason that I ranked them the highest in my assessment out of the 3. I thought their bench was the deepest without having the excessive fees that Logan Simpson suggested to us. I also like the fact that they kind of stressed the need to communicate a plan in plain language, which will allow for our population to absorb the plan readily, but also that they are focused on fiscally responsible governance and balancing what we might like to do with what we can fiscally accomplish. Being able to accomplish something, I think, was a strong theme throughout. I like the fact that they had quite a bit of Arizona experience, but also, as far as a firm goes, they had offices and projects in various parts of the country, some very conservatively minded, some more progressively minded, and they pointed out that part of their approach is to bring people together. And here in Prescott, although by tradition or by how people think about us, they think about us as a very conservative area, and that is largely true, but we also have a fair percentage of people here within the city that are more progressively leaning and are very vocal about their position. And so I think having a firm that can easily see perspectives from both sides and has experience doing so, that attracted me.
Thank you. I'd like to join in with my comments on my first choice, H.R. Green. First of all, they were all engineers. I like that because that means they're going to be organized. Their price point was $176,150. That was in the median range. In the middle, we had the third one was lower, and then there was another one that was much higher. But I also like the fact on page 30 of their prospectus, under project understanding, under key issues and opportunities, one of their bullet points is plan, structure, and format. The current draft organizes content thematically rather than by Arizona revised statutes element, restructuring the plan into a clear element-by-element format aligned with state statutes is a threshold task that will improve usability for staff, readability for council, and defensibility for adoption. So they were the only proposal applicants that mentioned the Arizona revised statute and state statutes and also ARS Title IX. So I think that was one of my main themes for this committee, is to make sure we comply with state statutes clearly. And they also were successful. They did the Chino Valley plan, which I've briefly looked at, and it was passed by the voters first round without any problems. So I think that was a good testament to them. So any more comments?
Yes, Mayor. I'm looking at their bid proposal. One of the things, well, I have two issues to raise. One is that they're only showing attendance at the city council adoption stage, and I think we're likely to have a study session sometime as well, so that may be an issue. I think the biggest issue is, their base bid was $99,000, and the optional services, I think we need a discussion on those optional services and how much of that do we think we're going to need.
Yeah, I noticed that all three of them included the 50,000 population threshold, which I think is a good thing because we get a more comprehensive plan that we're going there's no doubt in my mind that we're going to be over 50,000 in the next 10 years, and this has to be forward-looking. But it really jumped up the cost on all three of them to get that $50,000 option.
I did like looking at H.R. Green's breakdown of costs. I did like the fact that they, as opposed to the other two, made their optional services broke down into tasks with an amount assigned to each of the tasks that were optional, and put it to us to say, you can pick which of these optional tasks you feel you need. So the other two had a much more generalized amount that they attach to their optional elements without really the option for us to say, no, we really don't need an additional open house that you're involved in, but yes, we do want the 50K population addressed.
Yeah.
So I like that, and I did like, as Mayor Rusing pointed out, the fact that they explicitly went into the idea that one of their key issues was to reformat the plan to follow the statute, as opposed to themes, which are very nice, but if we want the voters to be able to follow along and know that what we're doing is required by statute, I think that's a much better structure to undertake.
And I like the organization of their proposal. For example, they had the price list at the very back, so you could find it easily. Mr. Grady?
Yeah, so I noticed that I'm actually comfortable with their concept, their engagement strategy being one open house. But again, I think they have it as additional option. I think there'll only be one planning and zoning commission hearing, and they're providing a cost for two. I think I would substitute a city council update somewhere in this process, but not for additional dollars by taking away one of the planning and zoning hearings.
Yeah, an additional city council hearing, I think that could be changed to a meeting so that it's not, because a hearing is a lot more involved than just a public meeting at city council, like a study session.
I don't know how, Alex, this plays in, because I haven't been involved in this kind of process here locally. What kind of comments does staff have, relative to their public engagement plan, or maybe even the fee structure?
Yeah, so I know that consistently what we heard, I think, from you all is that we're doing the whole process. We're meeting all those, we're checkboxing the ARS statutes, and part of that's public participation. The statutes are not really like you need to have 2 public open houses. It's community involvement. So however we want to incorporate that, I think is up to you all of how you want that community engagement to be. It's commonly in the form of an open house, so I think that's why they put it in there at least once. So there is the one open house, and then in the case of HR Green, they're adding in an optional if you wanted 2. Maybe if you go with 50,000, maybe 2 is needed. So I think it's a little bit fluid in that regard. But yeah, does that answer your question, Mr. Grady?
Yeah, but I guess another question related to that. So they also identified like $7,000 for ratification support, voter educational materials. That's interesting. I actually don't know if other communities have done that. I don't know if we did that in 2015. It's an interesting idea. I didn't know if staff might well be preparing voter education materials, and I know we were going to do an ambassador program, and they're volunteering to support that. I just think this is expensive, and I think we ought to, which we're doing now, take a close look at what optional services do we not want, and what do we want.
Yeah. An example of that would be they had 2 rounds of mailers. I don't know if you noticed that. They had 2 rounds of mailers. I don't know where that is. No, they had 2 rounds of mailers that's in the general plan, the Chino Valley General Plan, where they talk about the process. They had 2 rounds of mailers. They sent out 3,000 mailings the first time, 2,000 the second time. And they had like 80 people respond to their survey. So I don't know how efficient the mailers would be. We might want to talk to them about maybe just bypassing the mailers and maybe just doing something more online or something like that.
So to that point, will we be doing, or the consultant Well, we will have a 60-day public comment period. So is the consultant the one that's going to put that into some summary for us? I mean, they have public review draft and comment on the 60-day period. So they're going to do something apparently at the end of the 60-day period.
Yeah, the intention is that once a consultant is selected, they're going to take the project and they're going to shepherd it all the way through. They're going to be coordinating with, all of the agencies that we need to send it to, getting that public comment, receiving that feedback. It's checking in with the subcommittee along the way, and incorporating that into the proposed plan. I would also.
So one of those pieces will be some type of summary of comments and summary or assessment of where the primary interests were, or maybe even where the primary opinions were.
Yeah, that will be included as well. And what they will do at the beginning, which is also a statutory requirement, is a citizen participation plan. That will be really the roadmap to kind of how we lay this out, who we're reaching out to, when, and timing, and things like that. So that'll be part of kind of the beginning of the process as well, is a roadmap of kind of how this all is going to unfold and get done.
That they'll be presenting to us for with you all, with one last option to review.
Yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mayor, I guess I'm hearing you and Mary strongly believe that we need to spend another $50,000 to include some of that information regarding all the statutory requirements, because there's a number of missing elements that
Right.
aren't in our old 2015
Yes.
plan.
I think it'll be money well spent if we can get this approved by council and on the ballot, on the November ballot, and get it approved by the voters and signed by the governor. So it'll be ready to go for 2027 after several years.
So that would be, our schedule is the June ballot.
I think it's the November ballot.
I thought
Yeah, when we took direction for the scope, the intent was to have it on the July ballot. So approval, we set in our scope to have a plan to council approved, I think by March 2nd.
Right, I think that's the project schedule that the HR Green packet has.
I'm
the
sorry.
July as
I think I was thinking of the charter. Sorry, I was confused. Yeah. But if we can get the public meetings and hearings and everything, that'd be wonderful to have it on the July primary ballot.
So is this the appropriate form to go down the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different tasks to see what options and dollar amount we want to add to the base fee of $99.9?
I think right now we should just approve, we should make a motion and which plan we want to approve, and then we can work on these details once we have a meeting with the applicant.
I agree. I think a
Yeah.
discussion with HR
Yeah.
Green would be helpful as to these optional
Because we don't
elements.
want to tie their hands and then come back and say, well, after we talk to you, we don't want to do this, or we don't need to do this, so, yeah.
I agree.
Okay, so what do I hear? Do I hear a motion?
I move that we approve HR Green proposal for providing assistance to the city on our 2026 general plan update.
Second.
Sorry, I'm supposed to do a roll call, I think. Am I? Yeah.
They all agreed to it, so the motion passes.
Yeah,
Motion passes.
yeah, the motion
3-0.
passes unanimously.
I'm not used to sitting here,
Yeah.
sorry.
And this is just a recommendation. It's going to go to council for final approval.
I never said aye, so I will. Aye.
Aye, yeah. And So will we have it on what council,
It's on April 28th voting session.
April 28th? Okay, great.
Is that consistent with the timeline that HR Green proposed, this last page in their packet?
Oh, yeah, we better check
wouldn't wanna-
that.
Well, they have their tasks starting in April, so if the council votes it up at the end of April, don't they have 30 days? Wasn't that part of the proposal, that they needed to be up and running within 30 days of approval? I wouldn't,
Well, actually, if you look at their project schedule, it says task 6, ratification support optional. It's, goes into 2027. What is that?
well, at least by their timeline, they have the project kickoff meeting in April. And if we don't have it approved by council until the end of April, is there no way we could move up the council vote any earlier?
I don't believe so, but if I'm understanding correctly, we can see if they're available on April 22nd. That's the next subcommittee meeting. And then have a discussion with them on specifics of exactly what we want to see, and then take that to council on the 28th.
It does appear in terms of their deliverables that, during the portion of April, they're refining their project scope and schedule. I think that's your recommendation to do that with us again on the 22nd would make sense.
As long as HR Green is comfortable to come up and meet with us at the subcommittee prior to the council voting thumbs up on them. I suspect that there won't be a problem on the 28th, but they may not want to put in the time until they actually get a thumbs up.
Would you all be amenable if they aren't able to come up, if they were able to do it via Teams or something like that, so that there's a virtual conversation? Essentially, the subcommittee just wants to be able to talk to them about any of the additional expenses, correct?
Right, so that may give them a comfort level to appear virtually as
Yeah.
opposed to doing the drive up.
It's a good option.
I think we need to double check this July, because the ballot is, we're voting in July now. What's the date of the election? I don't think this is going to be ready with 60-day public hearings.
I'm finding out right now the date of the election.
Yeah.
We have it in our scope that council needs to vote no later than March 20th, which I believe was backtracked from the election date.
And the 60-day period kicks off then?
No, so all of it, that's
Oh,
when it's approved. So you mean the 60-day public comment period? Because that happens prior to the plan being finalized. That's where we have a draft and we're putting it out to agencies, and then we're getting that feedback and incorporating it into the final draft.
So we're going to have a preliminary draft 1st of December? That's what it
Because
looks like on their
if you look at
schedule.
their timeline, it doesn't end in July.
I think that
Yeah, it does.
Are you looking at
Yeah.
July this year or next year?
it ends in
Oh.
July of 2027, and that last
Oh.
task 6 is the optional.
With the public vote.
So we're talking, putting it on the ballot in July 2027? Okay. I'm sorry, I misheard you. I thought you meant 2026. And I was like,
Definitely
doesn't
not,
look
no.
what that's not, I was going to say,
Well,
I'd like it to be that quick, but
I misunderstood too. I thought we were shooting for the vote in July
Next year.
of next year, yeah, which is what that shows.
Yeah, so it's July of 2027. So we'll have plenty of time for,
So I have another question relative to their proposal. So looking at that same timeline, it refers to a 120-day general plan state review period.
by the governor's office, is that what you're talking about?
I don't know.
Yeah, the governor has to sign it after, so that'll be, if we get it passed in July, then she has 120 days to look at it. And
Well, this is before the voters vote in July, so
Right.
this is March through June
Okay, yeah.
of 2027. So does it need to go to the governor's office prior to the voters?
No, it doesn't go to the governor's office prior.
Do we know then what this general plan state review period, who reviews it?
maybe they look at the draft first.
I think that's reflective of the deadline to get it on the ballot itself. That 120 days. So from the actual election date, the 120 days is why we need to get it approved in March, and then it's not in our hands at that point in time.
That probably
the
needs to
ballot-
be cleaned up a little bit when we talk on the 22nd.
The ballot language I just heard from Ms. Thornhill is due at the end of March of 2027, which I think is why they had the final in the scope. They asked for the finalized plan needs to be prepared for council acceptance no later than March 1st, so that we make sure that ballot language gets in by March of 2027. And then I also was able to confirm that the election is, or the vote is on July 27th of 2027.
Right, in their project schedule, they do have, under General Plan Development Task 4 ends on the 1st of March, 2027, because that's when the final will come, at least to the council.
Okay, are we ready to move on to item B?
Next item is review and discussion regarding the following chapters of the June 24th, 2025 draft general plan. 1, the Chapter 4, Economic Competitiveness and Prosperity, and 2, Chapter 5, Community Quality.
Okay, so let's, with the first page, it's actually page 7 of 45. Economic competitiveness and prosperity, that's another one of the titles that's not in step with the state statutes. So we'll get that organized. And we're going to be talking about land use on this first page. Anybody want to start off the discussion on the first page here?
I just had a question. I'm actually not familiar with the downtown specific area action plan. And I'm wondering, we don't have anything else to refer to since May of '97?
I think that's a good point. It's probably outdated. I'm sure we have something else that we can put in its place.
Noted. Thank you.
Do we know, in fact, if that has been updated since '97?
I don't know offhand, but I'm happy to find out, and we'll be sure to have that information to the consultant.
Yeah. And we're working on another master plan for the downtown, aren't we?
Planning's not. We're working on our historic preservation master
Okay.
plan, which is
Maybe we should
inclusive of that,
mention
but
We could mention that and
certainly.
update this downtown specific area action plan.
That's all I have for that page.
Yeah. I would like to highlight in the third paragraph, currently the largest area set aside for industrial uses are in the vicinity of the airport. I'd like to clarify that is the Prescott Regional Industrial Air Park. sort of bring that to light. And then they mention the Sundog industrial area, and I'd like to add off Highway 680, off Highway 89, because people might not know where that is. And then also residential subdivisions are south and it says east of the airport and also west of the airport. So it's both, well, residential subdivisions are south, actually north, south, east, and west of the airport. We might want to
Pretty much surrounding it,
put
yes.
that in. But that's all I have. And then flip it over. The only changes I had were under strategy 2.7 on the second column. It talks about encourage retention of native vegetation, verify adequate and flexible buffers. I don't know. I think we need to clarify that a little more. Any other comments? Then we move, and then also it moves on to economic development and tourism.
I'm just going to, let me
ahead.
just speak for a moment about
Yeah.
that strategy 2.7. To the extent that it is focusing on the buffers to allow for screening, I think the reference to native vegetation is a strong one to the extent that that links up with water usage and
Yeah.
wildlife support, since native vegetation goes along with birds and animals that are compatible with
yeah.
the native vegetation.
I agree, 100%. So I think the rest of the page too looks good.
Yeah, I just want to, I'm not sure where it should go, but I'll just draw attention to it because I think it's elsewhere in here. But I think it could be referenced a couple of times, our 2024 economic development strategy.
Thank you. That is a very good highlight. And then moving on to the third page, existing condition, trends and challenges. Downtown, once again, they talk about a downtown SAP. Can you enlighten me? I forgot what that acronym stands for. SAP, strategic.
Strategic action plan, I think.
Okay, adopted another one in 1997. I'm sure we've got something more up to date.
I'm assuming that that's referring to the same plan as on the previous page, where they talked about the downtown specific area action plan adopted in May
Same one.
97.
Yeah, it's the
I'm
same
sure
one.
that's the same one. So if you can find, Alex, an updated version of that dimension in both places, that'd be consistent. That'd be good.
Can do.
Okay, and then,
Just one thing that
Patrick.
from a existing condition, one of the things I know that we've done, and perhaps it's identified here but not by name, is when we had Dr. Downtown here to take a look at what we needed to do.
it was Flip This Town. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was Flip This Town. We might want to put that in.
Because that study
Yeah, he
led the
did that.
way to the work on
creek.
the alley.
Yeah, the alley, and then also the restoration of Granite Creek. Because he said, that's a wonderful asset, and you're not using it. Because how many towns have, creeks running through their downtown area? So it turned it into a kind of an economic corridor. And got rid of blight and everything. So yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad you remembered that. Yeah.
Indeed, on this page and in that paragraph where they mention, in fact, the parking garage, it would be a good place to slot in the alleyway as the connection between Whiskey Row and the parking garage, making it a much more attractive, user-friendly way to get through. And that does also include about the Granite Creek Trail and infill along that corridor.
Yeah, and have a picture of the arch, for the downtown, for the alleyway and the creek. That'd be nice. Good thoughts. And then flipping over to 4, didn't really have, looked like it was pretty complete there. It's kind of a very extensive analysis on our downtown, and then that moves into workforce development and opportunities.
The economic development strategy also refers to this, and it's almost like we could take one of the goals. Their goal is we will develop a skilled workforce that embraces opportunities for tomorrow, and part of that relates to working with the colleges. So might think of putting that somewhere from the economic development strategy as a highlighted goal, because those partners are so critical
Yeah.
in our strategy.
Yeah, we need to make sure the consultant gets a copy of our strategic plan and this strategy so they can kind of dovetail them together. Okay, page 4, moving on to the 5th page, page 11. It starts off with the Arizona at Work office. We've got to make sure that's still around. Operated by the Northern Arizona Council. It's by NACOG. We might want to look them up and see if they're still viable. And then there's also SCORE, SCORE. Might want to mention them. And I wanted to either delete or reword the second to the last paragraph in the right-hand column, where it says, most industrial commercial opportunities require new construction. No, they don't. We can repurpose things as there remains a low inventory of existing buildings for sale or lease. That's not true. We have a mall with huge amounts of vacant space that can be repurposed. And this has led to limited speculative development of commercial industrial buildings in the area. I don't think that's true. On Gurley Street, the old Barrows furniture building has been repurposed and has got quite a viable business in there. And also our 6th Street industrial area, that has been revitalized and has a lot of companies in there doing innovative things. So I don't think that is very true. It doesn't reflect what we've actually been doing. Okay, flipping over to page 12. It mentions the airport and Embry-Riddle. And Embry-Riddle is going to be renaming the SAFE complex because of feedback, I guess. And I think they're going to call it the Eagle Center, but we need to check with them. I don't think they've settled on something, but by the time we get this draft done, they will have had a name, but just a little heads up there.
Yeah, I don't know that it makes much, adds much to the plan to identify what they're going to call it, especially if it's in flux right now. So you can just end that paragraph and leave off called the SAFE complex, mentioning that they're working on the flight training facility. What its name eventually is, doesn't really add anything to the,
Yeah, we
to
just-
the plan itself.
Need to make sure it's, we don't use a term that they've decided they're not going to use. And then in the second paragraph, just a small one, they talk about the FAA tower. I think we should call it, it's the control tower, and make it more specific. And that's about the only changes I have on that page.
I also think it's very typical for people to know what a control tower is.
Right, because if
The
you say
FAA
tower,
what
FAA
does that
tower, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's, we don't want to sell ourselves short the fact that we're getting a new control tower. That's been in the works for many years, finally coming to fruition. And then moving on to page 13, ensuring a strong tax base. I'd like to include some information in there about diversification and being less dependent on tourism. Has always been one of our goals to diversify our tax base, because that can be a future problem with the economy if you're just dependent on one source. And that was the only comment I had. And flipping over to 14, looks pretty good to me. It has a lot of statistics. A lot of numbers about the taxes. Then page 15, mostly strategies. Talks about the downtown specific area action plan on strategy 2.3. Maybe might want to make sure we can update that. Let's see. Flip it over to 16. Quality jobs, maintaining a strong employment sector. I think that's pretty comprehensive. I didn't have any changes there. And moving on to page 17, workforce characteristics, more statistics. They mentioned childcare. And then employment sector goals and strategies.
Yeah, and there's the one I was referring
Yeah,
to. I think when I had my note in the earlier section, I discovered
Yeah,
that was in there. That's
yeah, so it
really-
is in there. Yeah, good point. And flipping over to page 18. I didn't have any changes there. And then on page 19, under open space and wildlife, on the second paragraph the first paragraph under open space and wildlife on the third sentence, starts off, growth management plans adopted by the city council should require, I'd like to say, it just says open space. I'd like to put in meaningful open space, because that's always our goal, to have meaningful, usable open space instead of, landscaping in a median in a divided highway. Just kind of plant the seed there. And then under strategies for growth management goals and strategies, I think we need to be a little more specific and put in how we want to grow sustainably with by annexation. And maybe put in something about water manages growth. I don't know if that's going to be too controversial.
On the following page, under Goal 3, that does refer to evaluating for water resource, and it points back to that section. I think the next page goes on.
Oh, I see that, yeah. Evaluate growth and new development impact on existing and future water supplies using water. Yes. So we could probably reiterate that on this page. And also I'd like to add under another strategy to preserve and enhance the unique and historic character. I'd like to add something about, it wouldn't go under Goal 2, maybe Goal 3, encourage protection of natural vegetation instead of mass grading when possible, and protection of ridges, hilltops, and hillsides. Lately, it seems like we haven't been doing a very good job all of a sudden.
Maybe we could put that under Goal 5 that talks about the negative growth impacts, scenic easements, view sheds, and that would be a good strategy.
Oh, I think
to
that's
put in
good.
there.
Yeah, let's move that to Goal 5 on the next page. Okay. So turning over to page 20, which we were kind of encourage infill development on parcels with adequate infrastructure under strategy 4.2. Evaluate an administrative approval process for the review of new developments. I crossed out evaluate an administrative approval process for the review of new development. I don't know why that would have to be administrative. I don't know. What do you think? Do you know what that means, Alex? What that?
You're talking about 4.2?
Yes, 4.2.
Not specifically. I think it's just allowing for future options for infill under council direction to explore those avenues that could be done at an administrative level with codes set forth that you all are approving.
I think to the mayor's point, it seems to suggest that we're not evaluating, so we need to evaluate. And I think it's more continue to evaluate. I think that's an ongoing process. It's a never-ending process.
Yeah, well, why don't we say, yeah, continue to evaluate, yeah.
Well, since we have this is under Goal 4, which is talking about infill and the available infrastructure, I'm assuming, Alex, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the approval process includes things like the efficient use of the existing infrastructure and options for modes of transport. Isn't that already part of what we do?
Largely, yes. I think that it's all just kind of a suite of options for the future of if council wanted to pursue more specifically this direction, we could put in update our land development code as an example to kind of target that a little bit more specifically. And there could be criteria along with that, and it's something that council's approving. But I think it would hit on the points you mentioned.
Okay. And then update the language on strategy 5.2 under goal 5. It says consider the creation of a regional water advisory committee. I think it would be helpful if we were a little more practical and say currently include something about our long-term water management plan is being developed currently before we move on, because we're trying to get our long-term water management plan in place first, and then move on to a regional scope.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay. And then moving on to page 21, we have a statement from our city manager. Since I'm the mayor, I think it would be nice to have a letter from the mayor. I think the consultant has a letter from the mayor or something. But I don't know if you should have a letter from the mayor because it might be dated, because who's going to remember who the mayor was and care what they said. And the same with the city manager. What do you think?
A lot of times there is a letter kind of at the beginning of the entire plan.
From just the mayor, or just from the council, or
Yeah, I've generally seen it.
something like that?
Mayor and
Okay.
council.
Yeah. Oh boy, and then we get into the sales tax. And I think we really need to be more specific, because it says the beginning and the last sentence of the first paragraph on the right, it says the beginning of 2026? 2024, oh yeah, 2024, the city sales tax was 2%, and the combined tax rate, state, county, and city, was, I think it's not is anymore, was 8.35, okay? So then it sets it up. Then in November 24, it talks about the changes that we made. But I think we need to state the current rate is 9.3%, and then break it down what includes that. Maybe have a little chart so that people understand how much we do with what little we get to keep. Because every city and town in the state sends 5.6% of their sales taxes to the state across the board. And then we send 0.75 to the county. So the city only gets to keep 2.95%, and then break that down, that 1% goes to roads, 1% goes to the general fund, and then 0.95% goes to public safety. So I think a chart would be very helpful to break that down, so that we do a lot with just 1% of it going to the general fund, and then 1% is dedicated to roads. So that's my only, any other comments?
That's a good catch.
And then intergovernmental revenues, I think we could clarify that and call it state shared revenues, because intergovernmental means, I don't know, kind of general. I don't know if we share any revenues with other cities or with the county, but maybe be more specific and just state shared revenues and break those down. Yeah, it says state, federal, county, tribal, and other cities. Maybe be a little more specific. And then we talk about development impact fees in the third paragraph. I think we should put in that they're reassessed and adjusted every 5 years. And then I would take out consideration. I want to delete this. Consideration must be given to the potential negative effect of impact fees on development. No, it's not true. It doesn't have any impact on the development, because the impact fees are paid by the person building the new home. The developers do not pay that fee. And then we should also put in impact fees can only be used for new growth infrastructure. And then annexations with existing infrastructure on the next column. Existing residential areas seeking annexation should bear the cost of bringing infrastructure such as streets and water and sewer systems up to city standards. We need to eliminate and services such as police, fire, and sanitation, because why would they bring that up to city standards when they don't have their own police, fire, and sanitation systems? And then on the bottom of the page, under financing options for capital improvement projects, it says reimbursement districts, and then I'd like to say, i.e., water and sewer. Because we do have a lot of water and sewer reimbursement districts. They're a great tool where people, such as, Mountain Club, can get water and pay for them with their own district by the users that live in the district. Page 23. It talks about, in the case of Costco and Trader Joe's, how it's kind of with overriding public benefit. I think that's a good point. We can make exceptions and in return for their services, which are going to be contribute to the economy. We can help them out a little bit to get them here because we're competing for them with other communities. I don't see any changes there. And then we have a huge section coming up on workforce housing, Patrick. I mean, it could be a whole section on itself. And a lot of statistics here. I made some notes here, but it's hard for me to read my handwriting. But under generational and lifestyle diversity, achieve a sustainable community. I think it should be to achieve a sustainable community. Prescott strives to offer a balanced mix of homes of all types of households, for all types of households. Our community needs, instead of saying residents who can support a healthy, should we say businesses who can support a healthy, thriving? I was kind of confused. Do we need residents who can support a healthy, thriving?
So if that's what we're talking about here is who lives here.
Okay.
It is under the section for workforce housing. People are living in the housing.
Okay. Yeah, and then it goes in to talk about the median age. And then under the third paragraph, it's in the middle, it says, 2 elementary schools have forever closed their doors. I think we can eliminate. Have closed their doors.
Yes, forever seems a bit doomed.
Yes. And these conditions are the result in part from the aging baby boomer post-World War II era generation, as well as from large numbers of retirees who've relocated to Prescott. Which is true. Okay, any more comments and we'll move on. Page 25. This is a direct result of the aging demographic trends, balance housing needs require the promotion and availability. Encourage sufficient number of housing units for all income groups. I don't know if we should blame us for that. I think maybe we could just eliminate that. Makes us sound too much like Sun City. No hope.
All who enter here.
Yeah.
Under the housing trends section, I have to say my copy is well marked up because I think we've included way too much in the way of statistics. I mean, I don't know that a discussion of what the census data
Yeah.
has in the at the bottom of that left-hand column,
Right.
and also as that paragraph continues on in the next column, when the numbers that peaked in 2020 or 2002, 03,
Yeah.
and 04 is more data points than I think is appropriate in a general plan.
It does, we did have, they call it the Great Recession, and I think we should put in the dates for that, though.
Well, I agree, but I just think the chart that is included here that gives both the years and the numbers is just repeated, and I think it's a lot
Right.
easier for people to absorb it when they see this chart spiking and then crashing for the 2008 slump, and
Right.
again crashing for the COVID slump.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Is
It was pretty dramatic, though.
Is 2022, you don't have to answer this, maybe we could look into, is 2022 the last data point we have for single-family residential permits?
Yeah, we could at least get up to 2025 statistics. Yeah, good point. And then flipping over to page 26. Okay, we talk about multifamily housing. And
I have to say, in the second paragraph in the left-hand column where it says refer to top graph on the right, I couldn't find what graph they may be referring to about multifamily construction permits. Am I missing?
Are you talking about the page that starts with according to building permit data?
Yes.
And then
in
you
the
don't
next
have
paragraph where it says, however, in 2022, no new multifamily construction permits were issued. Refer to the top graph on the right.
Doesn't exist.
And the next, if you go through on, I guess, the next page, there are some graphs, but I don't see that correlates to no
maybe.
new multifamily construction permits.
yeah,
We'll ping it for the consultant to take a look at.
And I'm not sure in the
it's on the right next page. Yeah.
Right, but those
they can-
graphs stop in 2020, and this refers to 2022. No new multifamily construction permits. So I don't know that it's maybe it's referring to a graph that was there at one time and has since, gone away. But the graphs that are there don't correlate to what that sentence talks about.
I don't really know how to characterize this next comment, but so on that same page 26, the very first paragraph, it has a lot of stuff in there. It says many years. Well, what is this, 2025? Or you're looking back at the year 2000? Talks about community opposition to multifamily housing was significant during this period. What period of primary concern were?
I think you're right. It's kind of a Debbie Downer,
Yeah.
like we're out there with pitchforks, and I'm trying to think. Additionally, community to proposed was significant. What year was this?
And then they say, well, these are concerns. They're not necessarily all based on fact. What? I mean, well, I may agree with that. You can't put that in a general plan.
Yeah. That is kind of a generalization and a stereotype because it does refer to, apartment complexes being negated by community uproar. And the only one I can think of was the Ascari project in Prescott Lakes, but that was involving a change of the master plan that wasn't approved. You know, it was a medical campus originally, and the city wanted to change it to a 4-story apartment complex, and people in the area said no, and we bought in. You know, we have it right here. It was supposed to be doctor's offices. So that was really a valid opposition, if you ask me.
I think it could be worthwhile. We'll certainly note just a general cleanup of the section. And I think with the workforce housing progress we've made since this plan was done, will be added in, and just a good rework of this section, sounds like.
Yeah, because the Marina Street project, you know, we had a lot of comment on that, but nobody was up, and they were happy to see something because it was a blighted area. You know, having apartments there was an improvement.
And Alex, just as far as you're making notes, to the extent that this whole section needs some refreshing, it has a line in here. Currently, 2 build-to-rent projects are moving through the approval and construction process. Maybe they've already gone through, I don't know, but I think it's not wise in a general plan to make specific comment about something that's happening at the time we're writing this plan, since by the time people are looking at this, is that still the case or not? So I would strike that. Currently, there are 2 projects going through.
Who wrote this section, this page? Do you know who?
No, and offhand,
Was this
no.
the committee, do you think, put this together?
It certainly could have been. I think it was a blend of committee and community and stuff.
Because the last sentence is pretty funny on the left column. And instead of being stacked vertically, the units are nestled closely together to maximize density. I think we need to get rid of that. Also known as horizontal apartments. That's what they're known as. Nestled closely together, like
Just
hobbits.
cozy.
Yeah. Okay, and moving on to page 27. We agreed that we're going to eliminate anything about overcoming barriers such as zoning issues, extended timelines for current water management policy processes. No, that's not true. It makes it sound like we're dragging our feet to approve water for projects. And as the chair of the Water Issues Subcommittee, I'm not aware of any of that going on at my level. Are you? I mean, we have not delayed anything.
No,
You know, in fact, that's the first thing they want is approval of water so they can approve, and we have been very accommodating. So I think I'd eliminate that.
And I think to someone's earlier point, as we look at the issue of housing affordability in Prescott section, as well as formulating housing solutions, that goes on for 2 pages, if not 3, I think we're going to need to look at reworking all that,
Yeah, this just goes on and on.
including all the way over to page 31, in which, you know,
I have
the housing goals and strategies as adopted by City Council. I just think we need to look at that.
Thank you, I agree.
I do have, I don't know that it's worthwhile to put national data points in. What is average for national really doesn't have any impact on what's going on in Prescott.
Yeah.
The fact that NAR has the national median sale price at $391,000. What is, that's including both the blighted area of Detroit and the, the Ozark Hillbilly Hills. I can say that because that's where my parents retired to. It just, not to mention multi-million-dollar homes along the coast of California. So what the national average is, doesn't
Yeah,
mean
I
anything
agree.
to us.
Because all real estate's local. I think it's interesting to compare ourselves to Arizona.
Right, and so those
Yeah.
3 charts, I would toss out the national, and frankly, I don't see that there's only been in 2020 140 new housing units nationally. That I'm sure that must mean 140,000 million, who knows? But I don't think the national figures mean anything to us. But comparing city of Prescott and Arizona is valid, I think.
Yeah, total housing units with percent change of what? Sales cost? Or what are we talking about? A percent change of what? I think we need to clarify that for the readers.
Well, the way I read it, the percent change is the change in the number of units, whether or not they cost a lot or a little. It's just the number of units. I just think the national numbers, who cares?
Right.
But Prescott and Arizona, that is a valid
Yes, I agree.
comparison.
And then page 28, homeowners and renters in Prescott are spending a greater proportion of their income on housing compared to the state average. Well, I think we need to talk about the 800-pound gorilla in the room that affects our housing here in Prescott, that's unique to Prescott, and that's the rehab industry. And we need to mention Prescott, another situation is the rehab industry hub here in Prescott that owns and leases approximately, do we even know how many units? Is it 1,000?
No, I don't think it's quite that high at all. We
it's
could put some general numbers together. We don't want to be
500?
super specific in this regard, but
Yeah.
I don't. It's definitely not.
Which used to be housing for local residents because they would snap up I remember in our neighborhood, every time a house went on the market, the neighbors were like, oh my gosh, I hope a rehabber home doesn't go in there. Okay, that was everyone's fear. So we need to put that in there and say, and this industry is growing. Okay, and we need to put that in there so that everyone understands what we're up against, what's creating this shortage of workforce, because that's a big number, 500 units.
And in that same category is Airbnbs, VRBOs. So companies
Exactly.
coming in
Put that in.
and
Yeah.
buying up housing stock that would otherwise be available for people who want to live here and work here. So we have the VRBO industry, we have the rehab industry absorbing housing that the people who
Yeah.
live here and work here could be accessing.
Yeah. And that's very clear. If you added them all together, it would probably equal what our shortage is. And then the last sentence of the first column, it says the city's Workforce Housing Committee's consultant presented a housing needs assessment for Prescott with several specific goals. I think we need to kind of update that they had a consultant that presented, did a needs assessment.
Yeah,
For Prescott?
that's
Yeah.
what I was saying
Yeah,
too.
and
I
it
mean,
was very
this-
valuable, I
There's
thought.
like 4 or 5 pages on workforce housing.
Yeah.
And I know it's a priority for city council, but I think it just needs to be substantially reworked. I don't think it needs to
Yeah.
be 4 or 5 pages.
And because I'd like to include some things. Unfortunately, the policy is very expensive to implement, as the cities would have to bear all the cost of administrating it. That's I would like to put that in. You didn't know that was in there. Sorry, Patrick, but that's my fiscal conservativeness coming out. But anyway, so we could just up, don't you think? They did a lot of work. So, And I'd also, on the next page, 29, moving on, make a statement about we have made some progress and partnered with the state and the federal government and a turnkey workforce housing partner to build 82 units at no cost to the taxpayers. And then eliminate the moaning about water. Because we agreed in the policy, they eliminated that in the policy. I said, we don't need to put that in. And then also the ADUs. You know, I've lived here a long time, and this is no news that ADUs, I mean, they've been used for long-term rentals for a long time. Like, along Park Avenue, Mount Vernon, Mount Pleasant. And the older homes, they always had a separate garage in the back that was converted to like a granny flat, and people will rent them year round. I know lots of people that came to town and lived in an ADU until they could find a house or move into a house or move to an apartment or something. So were we just not enforcing it and just ignoring it? Is that what was going on?
I know that the statute has changed quite a bit. And at the time that this was done, I think...
Because I think we approved ADUs for long-term recently, didn't we?
It was part of a state law change.
Right.
And then the state law changed again. So I'm pretty sure, I'm going to verify right
Yeah,
now.
we weren't stopping people, but historically and practically, I mean, people had ADUs and they'd rent them to maybe just summer visitors, some of them, and then others, they'd have long-term family in there. They'd have long-term people in there.
So yeah, in our guest quarters and ADU, they shall not be utilized as separate rental units. And then ADUs, the current statute, correct me if I'm wrong, are allowed for short-term rentals. So our code doesn't allow for the long-term rental.
So it seems like our code just needs to be updated to reflect reality that's going on in the city.
Yeah, because the city does not go around knocking on doors and checking on who's renting in the back of the property. They've never done that. And then there's a comment about Prescott should support the creation. I'd like to change that. Prescott should be aware that a regional housing authority would be able to levy taxes. They have to realize it's a housing authority and it has a taxing capability. And then moving on to page 30, I have like 200 comments we don't need to go into. We can save it for the consultant. And then same with page.
Hang on, before we leave page 30, I just want to point out that it's the first complete paragraph on that page, starting with other challenges. Speaking about the challenges of putting businesses into established residential areas, it seems contrary to economic development that includes the positive nature of having neighborhood business.
NOBs, neighborhood-oriented businesses.
Right.
On the corner.
Either we think that's a good thing or we think it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing, but so that paragraph, other challenges, I don't think is useful and should come out.
In a nutshell, what I don't like about the tone of where this goes is it makes single-family home ownership sound bad, that everyone should be multifamily and living in small, mass-produced homes. And, that's not true. You know, single-family home ownership's the backbone of our American dream. But anyway, that needs a lot of work. The same with page 31, where we talk about the workforce housing goals and strategies. I agree with Patrick. We need to work on this. And because one of the strategies doesn't even mention, you know, that was in the official policy, doesn't mention us taking care of our employees, you know, exploring options for the retention and recruitment of our employees. I'd like to see that in the workforce section. And also prioritizing healthcare and medical. You know, that's one of the, those are the two, that's medical and healthcare, that's very critical. So anyway, need to work on that with Patrick. That'll be your homework. And then, let's see, page 20. Yeah, are we on at 32? Yeah, that's 31. So now we're on page 32. I can't read it in the, it's in the picture.
Right.
Under strategy 1, to provide housing rehabilitation fund and grants for owner-occupied dwellings and rentals, because there's a lot of people that are renting that would qualify for these block grant programs. It doesn't have to be owner-occupied. Let's see. Anything else?
Yeah, looking down on under goal 3, strategy 3.1, didn't we do, isn't the assessment complete?
Yeah, that's what I said, done by a consultant.
Right, so the language under 3.1 needs to be modified.
updated.
We don't need to conduct it, we need to recognize.
Yeah, we definitely got, that was part of the grant. And then under strategy 3, point 3, I really don't think that it's helpful to relax parking on workforce housing. And once again, they bring up the water thing, dedicated water allocations.
Yeah, this just goes
That's
to
very
the
controversial.
same point we're making, is
Yeah.
this needs to be looked at
Yeah, okay.
in total.
So moving on. 45.
Let me just say in general, since we're next moving on to the airport, the 2 pictures, well, out of 3 pictures that are in this section, 2 of them are about our lovely natural environment, not the airport.
I made that same comment. Because you flip it over the second page about the airport, and they have this huge page of the granite dells with the bench. And I put photo of airplanes and airport.
Well, finally, on the 3rd page, page 35, they do have a picture of the terminal.
terminal.
But maybe something of the
Yeah.
flight line or.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I thought,
Lovely pictures.
I thought folks took that trail to the airport. They
You know, I
parked
think
and then
you're
they walked
right.
through a trail to,
Yeah.
to leave
Dragging
town.
your suitcase
Yeah.
behind you.
A movie like that.
Yeah. So anyway, I have.
Maybe this was in the 2015 plan, but I'm glad to see it's being highlighted,
Yeah.
the airport's role.
In the airport does, this whole airport section does need to be updated because it doesn't mention our plans to extend and shift our runway to 10,000 feet and why we need to do that. And also, I would like it to be more rah-rah when, talk about connecting Prescott to the nation and the world. When we talk about our nonstop commercial routes. And it doesn't mention, it says SkyWest Airlines, but they're a subsidiary of Delta. I'd like to put Delta in. Anyway, there's a lot of things in here that we could kind of flesh it out.
Indeed, where it does say that SkyWest, although I think aren't they United?
Did I say
United
Delta?
Airlines.
I meant United. Yeah.
Provides flights to Los Angeles and Denver, and it could just continue on in that sentence,
Yeah.
which allows residents to connect around the world.
Yeah, it does. And we also have 2 flights. We have 2 flights to Denver now, and 1 to LAX. So we just need to tune that. And we had 40,000 passenger enplanements in 2025, connecting Prescott to the nation and the world. Yeah. So there's a lot of tune-up that we can put in here, because it mentions in the first paragraph that they talk about, I guess they don't mention it here, but they do talk about Flagstaff. Only Prescott and Flagstaff out of all of northern Arizona are the ones with commercial aviation connections. Where is that? They talk about Flagstaff, Pulliam.
In the second paragraph.
Oh yeah, I have it so marked up, I can't see that. But anyway, we need to beat our drum about this, and rah rah. So it's page 33, 34, the bench page. So like it doesn't mention our new control tower. It doesn't mention that our new FBO cutter partner has expanded. It doesn't mention the extension and shifting of our runway to 10,000 feet and why we need to do that. So anyway, we just need to update this along with a picture. And then we have the next column includes the airport, and expand it says airport goals and strategies. Goal 1, I'd like to say expand the economic development role of PRC, because it is an economic driver. I'd like to mention under one of the strategies, 1.3, we need new signage for the airport and our industrial air park. The industrial air park has no signage whatsoever. Nobody knows it's there. They just see an exit sign for Larry Caldwell Drive and nothing. Our air park is not even mentioned. So all the big wigs that fly in to check out their Walmarts and their Costcos, it would be helpful if they would know that we also have an air park in case they wanted a distribution center for their big places. And then strategy 2.3, we've already done that, protected the crosswind runway with land purchases and reimbursement from the FAA. We need to update that. It's a big accomplishment. Let's see, 35, moving on to the big picture. On page 36, too many pictures, hard to print, uses too much ink. I think we can eliminate these giant murals here. Although it's a very nice picture of the kayakers and the stand-up paddle boarders. I think I'm the third person on the left. Okay, we're almost done. We got half an hour, so move on to community quality. That's a theme, not an element, so we'll take care of that. I don't know about this, the paragraph here in the red. I think it's, I don't know, kind of redundant because we have our vision and our mission at the beginning. But especially when you start off with the Prescott Police Department, it's kind of out of place. because community quality, this starts with the Prescott Police Department, which is going to be moved into the other element that is more appropriate for public safety. Anyway, we need to have the pictures changed to show pictures of the police department and then on their doing their activities. And in the first sentence, the Prescott Police Department strives to serve the citizens of Prescott with respect, fairness, and sensitivity. That could be anything. That could be the, I'd like to, kind of sounds like Mr. Rogers. I think I would like to change that to serve and enforce law and order and to decrease and prevent crime. Just something simple like that, more specific. And provides quality police service in partnership with other members of the community through innovative police practices. And, that sounds wonderful. I think we should say they're award-winning. I know they're award-winning. And consists of multiple bureaus and sections. That sounds like a huge bureaucracy. I think we should change that to full service. Consists of full service departments to include, and then it lists all their different services. And any other comments? Moving on to page 38, we have more details on the police. I think we should mention the SRO, the School Resource Officer Program, that we've been expanding, working with PUSD to keep our students safe. That's been very successful and popular. We should also mention the work with the nonprofits such as MatForce to prevent substance abuse.
I don't know if they have a specific section, but I know our police department has staff that is focused on trafficking, human trafficking.
Yeah.
And domestic
Violence.
violence.
Yeah. Maybe we should put that in the, under their departments that, they list, they have a laundry list, includes animal control. We could throw that in too, because that's very important, unfortunately. And then I would.
Are you on page 38?
Yeah, we're on page 38. We need photos of the police, again, not the courthouse.
We should include one of the officer with the canine.
The canine.
Everybody
would be
loves
very, and then I'd like to include, because this is very important, in partnership with the City Council, code changes were made to manage panhandling and street encampments. And the police department partners with shelters to keep the homeless safe. And then we should say something about under strategies about Prop 487 and providing funding for a new police substation, evidence storage.
They say analyze how much space is needed. We've already approved it.
Yeah, we've already. So we need to update all this. I can't believe it's already outdated. We have done so much work already. And and it didn't get approved, and so here we are again. But we really have been like on a lightning speed here implementing this plan. We deserve the whole community and the previous councils and the committee and everybody, you know, we deserve a pat on the back here. So we only have a couple more pages to go. Okay, 39, education. This is a very important one, and they really sold themselves short here, I think. We really need to flesh this out. And, you know, we have a very varied and quality education options. It should talk about our preschools, our charters, PUSD, because it only mentions the, you know, higher education. You know, many options. Name, you know, the charters and mention homeschoolers, and very comprehensive in how it's important. Quality education is important to attracting employers and workforce.
You know, especially to the extent that the general plan, one of the targeted audiences for it is people who want to learn about our area when they think about either moving businesses or themselves into our area. It would be good under this education to list out how many elementaries, middle, high schools we have, maybe name them. If we know how many charter schools we have within our footprint, include those. If we have some sense of private schools, like the
You know, we have
Seventh-day Adventists are just expanding theirs.
Yeah. And we have Primavera up on Copper Basin. That's been there since the 60s, and that's
Basis?
very important. Yeah, basis.
Yeah, fleshing it out with actually the facilities we have, not just the upper educational opportunities.
Yeah. And then we mentioned Northern Arizona. NAU has a remote campus in Prescott Valley. We don't care. We don't want to mention those guys over there. Not just kidding. I don't think that applies. I'm happy they do have that campus over there, seriously. That's a wonderful option for the community.
Well, it could just say has a local remote campus, not mentioning any names, as well as online options.
That's true. If it's a remote campus, does that mean it's Prescott Valley is remote? Because it's a remote means it's online, right? So don't mention it being in Prescott Valley.
Well, I think they mean remote as in not at the NAU main campuses, but we could just say it's local to us. So a local remote campus,
Yeah,
silent on name, as well as online options.
just not mention our sister city over there. And then the library section is beautiful. I love the first line, the Prescott Public Library. Why it has library again in parentheses, I don't know. We could probably eliminate that.
I think it's saying that it's going to reference it just as the library moving forward.
Oh, okay, but still, we don't need that. We could figure that out. Serves a vital role in the community functioning as a center for information, culture, education, and recreation for the city and surrounding areas. It is a vibrant hub, and I love that. It goes on and on. I'd like to include, it's also an economic driver by bringing patrons into the city who then shop, eat, and enjoy Prescott.
And I don't think there's an inclusion in here, something that the library does that is very useful, both for small businesses and for organizations, is their access to meeting rooms.
Yes, meeting rooms, we should put that in. Yeah, free access to, and they don't say computers, you know, they just say print books, but free access to computers, print books, magazines, movies, electronic resources. I think they might mention meeting rooms on the next page
Do
somewhere.
they? Did I miss that?
Let's see.
Oh, they do. In addition, meeting and study rooms.
Yeah.
Computers, Wi-Fi, blah, blah. Yeah.
Yeah, so they do include that, when that is very important. And then I think at the very end, before the goals, we should say the library is planning a second location to serve the growing community needs. And then under strategies, I'd like to include expand to a second library to serve North Prescott. And then another one, strategy 2.1, I'd like to make another strategy, work with the county library district to maintain funding to prevent cuts in service. That's something that we actively have to do every year.
Did you say strategy 2.1?
Yeah, I was making another strategy because it's a little, it's a kind of a new thought.
So you might just have a second goal to ensure available funding for services proposed or provided, and under that, strategy 2.1, to seek out regional funding. I'm not sure how we're going to go about
Yeah,
that.
well, it's in the library district, so we don't have to seek it out. We're already in it,
Right, just
but they come
an
up with the
equitable
budget.
split of the money.
Yeah,
Yes.
they come up, the county comes up with the money and divides it up, and we got to make sure we're not overlooked. Patrick, any comments about our library? We do really take that library for granted. I've spent a lot of time out in front there collecting signatures, and I was so impressed at people that came in from all over. People would move here because of the library, when they were assessing cities and towns. The fact that we had a great library meant other things would be great too. I think Melissa's and her staff are doing a great job. Okay, moving on to page 41, Community Center.
Is it still called Rowley Simmons?
Yes, it's still called the Rollie P. Simmons Community Center. Is owned by the city and is home to 2 nonprofits. Now, that's where the name change. It's not the Adult Center anymore, Inc. It's just called the Center. So we just need to get rid of that Inc. It makes it sound like some corporation business or something. But we need to also mention the YMCA, because they talk about community centers. That should be an S, because we don't want to sell our YMCA short, because that has been a gem with the swimming pools, tracks, gyms, fitness, basketball, volleyball leagues, community focused. And they built it with donations. And they've done a wonderful job. And then we mentioned Meals on Wheels, and we should say that they're currently planning on expanding their services for the community. And we talk about the the center. We should say the programs offered are varied and change from time to time. No. And focus on well-being and socialization activities, and then they list all the things they do. In their thrift store, they don't have a thrift store there anymore, so we need to eliminate that. But they do a lot of things out there. But they used to be called the Adult Center, which made it sound like a senior center. So they just call it the center now, because it serves the whole community of all ages. And then under youth programs, it starts off, it should say the YMCA is a youth and government program. That sounds terrible. Sounds like it's some sort of a probation thing or juvenile detention center. It's just say offers programs, and is dedicated to empowering young leaders. So they have a youth program, the Launch Pad, the Boys Club, the Nature Niños. And then flip over to the Teen Task Force, Prescott Junior Ranger Program, and under art, culture, events, and museums, we should include, I don't know if it'll be too long, arts, music, culture, theater, events, and museums. And say Prescott is fortunate to have numerous local businesses dedicated,
Yeah, I know.
nonprofits.
We can't name all the venues,
Yeah.
but I think we should have something in there
Yeah,
on,
we leave out
on the
the
music scene.
Yeah, Prescott has a very vibrant music scene. It's kind of, you don't hear much about it, but we have music pretty much everywhere in the bars and the restaurants, venues every weekend, and there's no cover.
I guess I would just be concerned that if we're going to list a few, because there are so many,
Yeah,
we can't list them all. And if we list some but not others,
yeah.
that might get
Yeah, I don't think-
problematic. We don't want to be accused of
I don't think we
favoritism.
can in the music area now.
Yeah, but we need to list, I think their websites. Under performance venues, they have all the websites. I think we could, and then under centers, I think we need a better word than centers. But, flesh that out and put in their websites.
I would propose adding Cosmos Theater adjacent to the Hazeltine. They're two distinct entities.
Oh, yeah, put that in. Okay, and then moving on to our wonderful events on page 43, we need to flesh this out. Need to mention the downtown, Prescott Downtown Partnership and the city tourism and department and all the wonderful work that they do to maintain these events
Just under
and fund them.
the specifically, since it's listing very specific events, just off the top of my head, I would include Earth Day, which is coming up like right now, the boot drop and New Year's Eve on the plaza, the parades. There's no
Yeah, I agree. I have all the parades listed: Veterans, 4th of July, and Christmas.
There's also the Highland Games.
Yes, put that Highland Games. I mean, men in kilts. Who wouldn't want to go see them? Large logs at each other or whatever they do.
Big burly men in skirts.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like that?
So, yeah, let's put in the Highland Games.
Oh, and the 4th of July fireworks.
Yeah, we need to, fireworks, boot drop. Because a boot drop gets, they have CNN there now, and we get national attention. The balloon arch in that picture is unbelievable. If you've ever tried to make a balloon arch, I mean, they must have had 50 people making this thing. I mean, that's probably the largest balloon arch ever made in the state of Arizona. I'm impressed. And then flipping over to page 44, healthcare. They need an introductory paragraph that's better than this. Community Health Center of Prescott, CHYC, that's actually the county health department. So we really need to work on this.
Actually, it looked like it got scrambled up a bit because I thought
Yeah.
just reading through it, this paragraph that starts under healthcare existing conditions really reads like it's the start of this section, not jumping right into the county's program.
Yeah. And I think we should start off with Dignity Health and leave out Yavapai Regional Medical Center. They've changed their name. And mention the fact that they have two campuses, one in Prescott Valley. and mentioned that they just opened their state-of-the-art electrophysiology ablation lab to treat atrial fibrillation. I mean, that is huge. We just took the tour and had the ribbon cutting. State-of-the-art. It was unbelievable, the technology that for a town this size. And then we need to move at the bottom of the page, they talk about our VA center, which is growing. It does a fabulous job out there. We need to move them up out of under existing conditions and move them up as the third. Actually, we need to put them up as the third one and then move exceptional community down to number 4. You know, do the biggies, the county health department, the 2 hospitals, Dignity campuses, the VA, and then have the exceptional
I could imagine
community
this.
hospital.
I can imagine this language came from Dignity, but the last paragraph in the left-hand column, 24-hour emergency center, inpatient, outpatient, and our highly respected Pendleton centers. I don't know what Pendleton centers is.
That's their physical therapy. You know, we should put physical therapy in there.
Yes, put a descriptor in there, because I didn't know what it was, and I'm assuming anybody who has not gone through that rehab wouldn't
Yeah.
know it either.
And then healthcare existing conditions. That kind of sounds weird. What does that mean? Like pre-existing conditions? I don't know what we're talking about. That needs a new title. And then we need a new paragraph because they lump in healthcare in the Prescott area also, and then you go to the next page because they talk about the VA. And so you need a new paragraph where it starts, healthcare in the Prescott area also encompasses a wide range of other specialties and services. And they start off with optometrists, but ophthalmology is a big, we have several good ophthalmology centers here. But anyway, this is very extensive and we just need to flesh that out, update it. And then they talk about ambulance services.
Don't you think we need to include our native air, the helicopter ambulance service?
I think that's brilliant. And we should move, I think ambulance services, I think we should move them more over after we talk about the hospitals and include ambulances.
It does seem like it's just
Yeah.
been tagged onto the end,
Yeah.
and it's really an essential aspect. I know when
Yeah.
Lifeline was running into problems with the state as far as their accreditation goes, because their time was getting too long, and we brought in the priority ambulance service came in to boost up the availability of ambulance services because the population was just
Right.
outgrowing Lifeline's capabilities.
Yeah, ambulance service is very critical here, and we're very lucky to have such an extensive health care community here. Also, I have a problem with the cost of housing in Prescott and the lack of transit to bring employees into Prescott from surrounding areas. There's been little incentive for prospective nurses and doctors to come to the area. No, that's not true. The problem is we have a shortage of doctors and nurses, okay? Just in the nation, people just aren't going into those professions like they used to. And that's one of the issues why we have a shortage here. It's not because of lack of transit.
And indeed, the issue of housing costs and the impact on workforce of all kinds is very well addressed elsewhere. If this section is talking about healthcare, the
Healthcare concerns.
what's out there and available to us, it seems like this concern section is stuffed in there and does not need to be.
Well, good job, guys. We're 2 minutes. Got 2 minutes here before 5.
We want to talk about.
Yeah. Anyway, I want to thank everybody. Thank you, Alex, for your support. And I have a really good feeling. I think we're going to have a lot of preliminary work done for the consultants and have a lot of good conversation with them. They'll just get us organized.
Speaking of Alex, what is the plan for letting HR Green know that we'd like to go with them and getting things going?
Well, I'll reach out to them tomorrow. If this is the direction we want to go, as kind of a recap when we talked at the beginning, I'll see if they can attend April 22nd, to whether in person or virtual. I'm not sure. I'll throw out both options, so we can talk through their proposal, some of the additional options there, and then we have that placeholder on the April 28th council session too, where if we're feeling good and ready, we can move that forward to that item. And then my thought is, if that all goes well, they then could attend the next general plan subcommittee meeting as like the contract's ready potentially in May, if that all pans out in times accordingly.
I do hope they make themselves available for the 22nd, because I think when we go to the council, when we go to the full council on the 28th, we will have answers to questions that might come up and be good to be ready to be addressed on the 28th.
Definitely.
And just one thought, I think we need, I don't want to sound too hard on vacation rentals, because we are a resort community with a lot of tourism, and people come up here for events, weddings, funerals, visit their kids at Embry-Riddle, for Embry-Riddle events or Yavapai College events or whatever, sporting events, and they, rent vacation rentals. So, and we have a lot of very responsible owners with quality properties. And so it's very important that we, embrace them. They do serve a function, and they do pay a lot in fees too, permit fees and taxes.
Right. I don't think we should excoriate them or drive them away with pitchforks, but there just needs to be a balance.
It's when they're privately owned, but when it's the hedge funds that come in and buy up whole blocks, and then they're not monitored and they just turn into party houses, and there's, issues.
I would just, in closing real quick, we will be meeting on April 22nd. I'll keep you all posted if the consultant can come. The grand finale things we have to do are the amendments section, which is, it's a page, but I think it'll take some dialogue. And then the maps. I know we were waiting to just kind of address all the maps to the end. So we'll focus on those for the 22nd for sure. And then I'll update you if the consultant can be present.
Yeah. And then also I forgot to mention to the committee, what do you think about asking the Yavapai Prescott Indian Tribe to contribute? In the beginning, under the historic section, they're mentioned. And it's the same wording as what it was 10 years ago in the 2015. And I don't know if they've ever been consulted. And so I think I would, be amendable to dropping off a copy of the draft for them to review if they want to.
I guess my only concern is if they review it and they come back with lots of ideas, are we going to accommodate their ideas?
Well, I think
This late stage.
Well, I don't know if it's the late stage or not, but I think that'd be nice to offer it to them. Okay.
Agreed.
All righty. Any more comments? If not, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.